Speaking of bad to worse, the latest on Deshaun Watson and that whole fiasco in the NFL is apparently the Houston Texans are now going to find themselves in the mix as defendants, according to Tony Busby, who represents the women filing the lawsuit against Deshaun Watson. The Texans, along with anybody else who may have had knowledge or involvement when Deshaun Watson's little, what has gone from 8 to 10 to 22 to 24 to 66 different visits to massage therapists over the course of a year and a half span. They are all going to find themselves listed as defendants.
Was it 66 visits or 66
different massage therapists?
66 different massage therapists.
Let's be clear on that.
Yeah.
Like, we should specify. We should specify too. Not all of these 66 are making these allegations or accusations.
Yeah.
All right. The 66 is in a 17-month period, and it's just to kind of show the pattern of what exactly he was doing.
Hey, think about this. The fact that we feel better about, or at least it's an improvement on the total number, that it's only 24. It's not 66. It's 24. Like
I'm
we're
not
talking
saying
about 20.
we. I'm not a we on that one.
But my point is,
take that one on your own.
My point is the fact that you downplay the number of visits or the number of massage therapists that he went and saw, and it's only 24. Like, only 24. This whole situation is a disaster. And anybody that goes near Deshaun Watson at this point or has been near him in the last year and a half, I don't think anybody should feel comfortable about it, whether it's the Texans, whether it's the Cleveland Browns and the pushback they're getting and the vibe around the league on that organization now. Anybody that's gone near this guy, it's like everybody's got a mess on their hands because of one person who's completely changed the trajectory of not only a league, but a bunch of people's lives and a bunch of organizations in the NFL.
The interesting aspect of what you're saying, to me, would be I would feel guilty almost trying to be cool with him or trying to get, like, if he's my new teammate, it's like if I'm like, well, I don't know if it's true or if it's false. So like we heard what's Buddy's name? Their best player that came out.
Myles
Garrett came out and said that he had, no reservations on, getting to know him. He's been a good dude to him since getting going. Like, to me,
do you believe that?
I don't know that I do. I take it at face value, but what I would say is I would feel dirty saying it in the media. Like, for me, I would feel like I would have to say whether he's innocent or not, or whatever it may be at this point. I don't know. I just wouldn't feel comfortable or confident having any type of definitive statement about someone like him in the media that would say anything to that capacity. I would much rather say I'm not comfortable having a conversation like that. I don't know enough about what took place, and I don't want to have anything to do with it. That would be what I would say to the media. I would not feel comfortable coming out and supporting him. I wouldn't feel confident in saying anything of the sort that would diminish it.
What about if you're the head coach?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Kevin Stefanski sure has to answer these questions constantly.
Yeah, I know.
To this point, he's kept his cool, and he's answered into, hey, we'll let the legal process take its course, and that's been his deal, right? He's like a Zen master kind of. He's not unflappable in the way he handles this scenario. But think about if you're him and the position that you've been put in. Like, let's just for a second all close our eyes, unless you're driving. Do not do that, all right? Keep your eyes open.
Yeah.
But let's close our eyes, literally or figuratively, and think if you're Kevin Stefanski, you're the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. It's your first time becoming a head coach. You take this job. You're going to turn this thing around. Heck, they were even clamoring for you to be the guy before you were the guy. And they, after a short stint, they were like, all right, we made a mistake. Let's hire Kevin Stefanski. And so they do. And you take this team to the heights that it hasn't seen in a long time, like 2 decades. You go and win a playoff game. You go to the playoffs. You got things going all in the right direction. You have one stumble of a year, and your quarterback gets hurt, a bunch of your team was hurt, maybe unhappy to some degree, and what happens? The organization panics to a degree because they now have to potentially do a deal with Baker Mayfield, a long-term deal with Baker Mayfield at quarterback. So what do? The front office and ownership starts looking at, hey, maybe we get Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. Not only do they bring on a guy who now has brought this entire mess in your lap if you're Kevin Stefanski, but on top of that, you signed him to a contract that everyone around the league that's an owner is looking at you, shaking their head going, why? Why would you sign this player to that contract? And I was talking to an insider there in Cleveland yesterday, and I asked the question. I said, this is my interpretation of how this deal went down. Obviously, everyone knew there's a lot on the table as far as what happened in 2020, 2021 with Deshaun Watson, all the allegations. I said, I would imagine the guarantees that are in this contract are not going to be taken away for anything that he would be punished for during that time period. He said, that's how I'm interpreting it too. Because the team full well and knew if they quote-unquote did their investigation, what he had gotten himself into, right? And so the only thing that they could really strip away these guarantees that are within this $230 million fully guaranteed deal would be if something happened in 2022 and something happened after the deal was done, right, that they were unaware of. And so you're a head coach. You've got this quarterback who may or may not even play, who's a huge distraction that you're paying all this money to after you just got this team that was dying to find a winning formula to get to the playoffs, and you did it. You now brought on this entire mess. And you're sitting there, and it's going to impact your ability as a head coach, your win-loss record, your legacy, if you will. And yet this all got thrown on Kevin Stefanski's lap. And look, maybe he was complicit. And he said, yeah, let's go get something, Deshaun Watson, if we can make it better. I don't feel like that was necessarily the case. Mm-hmm. It feels a little bit like this was a lot of Jimmy Haslam and a lot of Andrew Berry in their front office making this decision. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. And it's probably going to go down in history as the dumbest decision ever made by a franchise.
Gosh.
And if they miss the playoffs again, which they will, guess who's on the hot seat, either after this year or next year? It's going to be Stefanski.
I mean, there's been a lot of dumb decisions that have been made during the course. I mean, you can probably, it wouldn't be hard to pull up top dumbest decisions made by a franchise. This might go down in history as the most insanely dumb decision that a franchise has ever made.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like, listen to what Q just said. Like, you may not ever have his services, and nonetheless, you might be paying him more than 90%. He'll make more than probably more than 90%, like 95, 98% of the league, having not played a down of football in the last last year. Now you would assume that he's not going to. I'm starting to assume he's not going to play this year. So you're talking about, you took on a contract and created a contract where you bailed out Houston. Houston is now becoming a defendant in the situation against him, and he's not going to play for you. That's got to go down as, you just got to question, like, why?
Yeah,
why?
Never seen anything like this.